In my time of listening to music, I've come across many albums where I'm like, this is not great, or there are skippable moments on these albums. A recent example that I can think of that I've at least heard today, or gone out of my way to listening to is Morbid Tales from Celtic Frost, which I do think is one of the tightest sounding, you know, quotation marks albums, because the original release of Morbid Tales is an EP. So, I couldn't include it because of that reason. But there's also some really whack stuff on there. Like, I believe Dance Macabre. I believe that was the song. Where there are just weird ghost whispers. And that's the whole song. I'm like, that's so whack. But yeah, Thomas, I believe is his name. Tom G Warrior, the guy. Love Celtic Frost, but I do, yeah. Danze Macabre. Not sure how you say that, but yeah, it's technically an EP, 24-minute album, so it's just in and out pretty easy. But yeah, I mean that song is whack. Like, if you can cut that off, I would be happy. But it's a very short album, so most people consider it's an EP. Rachel Music says it's an album, so take it or leave it. It does have one of the sickest album covers, though. I do love that album cover, but I do have it on vinyl as well. I thought I had it behind me, but not not here. But anyway, I'm here to talk about albums that don't have a dense macabre moment. Albums that sound tight, are consistent, are just all killer, no filler. Almost wanted to say the opposite. But yeah, these are the albums that I'm like, yeah, these are all just very tight, very consistent, very great. They don't really miss, really. So yeah, let's get to the albums that actually are just, as close to perfection as you can get. I will preface by saying that these are not necessarily my favorite albums. Some of them are, some of them are not. So just to say that. But yeah, some albums I'm like, you know, some albums are really consistent, really tight, but they sound a bit too similar. So that could be a reason why I wouldn't consider it a favorite, because I like some more variety in my music. And a perfect example of that is my number 10 pick, which is Max and Match, which is probably a play on words for mix and match by, almost called Max and Match. Pretty unique take by Luna Odd Eye Circle. Also pretty unique take to call your band that. And this is kind of a technicality, because this is technically not a band. But, it's not about the tightest band, so they're still fair game. Luna is a K-pop group that came on the scenes, I believe, 2015. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But you have, of course, the main group, which is just Luna, and I do like Luna as well. But I'm personally more into the Odd Eye Circle project. The actual Luna is just the easiest one to like, because they have the most singles, so it makes sense to like that one the best, because that's the whole group. But with the actual group, they only made one album, and besides that, it's just all EPs, just all like short singles. and I believe after 2022 they broke up. And that's that's kind of my pet peeve with girl groups, because people are just obsessed with K-pop, and it only lasts for like a couple of years while the girls are like young and fresh, which I don't think that's artistic. That's not great, but that's the K-pop market. But before I have like an entire BT army behind me, or BTS. Well, I was thinking about a good artist. Sorry. But yeah, all jokes aside, I'm not a huge BTS fan. I do think they have some catchy singles, but Luna, they just sound the tightest. They just have the catchiest singles, in my opinion. As far as K-pop goes, they have the greatest singers. And whenever I see and hear Luna, whenever I see the music videos, I'm like, this is all perfect. If they would just make more of Luna Odd Eye Circle, I would just love the shit out of them. I'm like, yeah, this is my favorite group. Because, if they grew up a bit more and if they really honed their craft, I think that they really could have been one of the greatest groups out there, like with Backstreet Boys and, in that ballpark. I think if they really did some artistic vision, I think that this really could have been a great group. But, that's not how the K-pop market is designed. It's just like, yeah, pump this shit out and K-pop fans will eat it up. Then they like it a few years. Then they grow out of it. Then they discover a new group. It's very formulaic, and that's just something that I hate in music. I don't hate K-pop. I love this album, but yeah, that's just kind of a personal grievance that I have with that type of marketing. It's more about the image than the actual music, but you know, conveniently for us, this is actually a great album as well. So it's just great altogether. I haven't heard it in a long time, but I just remember it being great. There's an ad, Sweet Crazy Love, arguably not their best song, but a really great opening song. And Cover, great. Girlfriend. I was just obsessed with that song for a really long time. Like, is that the song that goes like I just love that melody. It's very sweet, it's very catchy, it's very cute. It's just everything that you want out of a great pop song. Lunatic, Chaotic, Starlight I really like as well, underrated, deep cut I would say. And Old Front, great closer. So I'm like, yeah, this is a really tight pop album, and it's also the same length as Morbid Tales by Celtic Frost, but it doesn't have a shit song, so it took its place. Love both Celtic and Luna, so very, very different, very polarizing views, I know, but both great, for different reasons. But Luna edged it out because it doesn't have a shit song like Dance Macabre on it, so yeah, Luna takes the number 10 spot. Number 9 is Immersion by Pendulum. This is a electronic group that's kind of immersed into the scene in the 2000s, in the late 2000s. I believe their first album came out in 2005, 2006. I could look it up, but yeah, this is essentially just, you could almost consider it the birth of dubstep. But I know, that's not true, because most people will say, oh, Burial invented that style. And I believe that Burial got the first credit for being a dubstep artist. So I'm not taking credit away from Burial. But they formed in 2002, and their debut came out in 2005. So close enough. So that, every album took about 3 years. And they have a new album coming out, Inertia. Pretty cool. But yeah. You know, most people that hear dubstep, or they hear the word dubstep, they're like, oh, Skrillex, shit like that, very obnoxious bro step type of dubstep. Like that's the dubstep that even though Skrillex kind of grew as well as an artist. So I'm actually curious to check that out now. But to go back to the topic, I personally find Burial very boring. I can't really get into his style. I think I've talked about that before. It's just a bit too vague and just mysterious sounding and just a bit too, I don't know, aimless. I think that's the word I'm looking for. It just doesn't sound like a coherent song, like a coherent thought. Not that I'm calling his music incomplete or something, but yeah, maybe I do, because it sounds a bit incomplete to me. I guess some people really love that sound, but I don't. I couldn't get into it. I didn't really get it. And whenever I heard Pendulum, I was like, yeah, this is what I like. Very fun, catchy, like just in your face kind of rhythms. Like I do like some Skrillex songs, but it does kind of sound like a clusterfuck. Like with some of the songs, like the songs that are not singles, just sound like shit. Like they're not great. And Pendulum kind of took that sound, or they essentially were before Skrillex, so Skrillex ripped their style, you could argue. But Pendulum, has that kind of obnoxious Skrillex sound, but all the songs are good. I'm like, all the songs could be singles, especially on the album here, which is Immersion, which is all killer, in my opinion, because Salt in the Wounds, great opener, Watercolor, great, Set Me on Fire, Crush, I think that was a single, Immunize, the Island parts are both great. The Vulture, also pretty good. Witchcraft, love that song. And I mean, the last three songs are probably three of the greatest songs I've ever heard. Self versus Self with In Flames, fucking awesome. Two of my favorite bands. The Fountain with Steven Wilson, very like mellow and melodic in that Steven Wilson style, in a dubstep format, or like a dance floor drum bed, what is called here. I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, that's great. So that really worked for some reason. And then Encoder, which is probably to this day one of the greatest songs I've ever heard. So I'm like, it has like three god tier songs, and the last song is literally a song so good that I can't describe it in words. I'm like, what the fuck is this? So yeah, I put this album on, for workouts or just for regular work or just walking, just taking a hike or something, relaxing. It works in any format. I'm like, what the fuck? How does it work so well? I'm like, yeah, it's great in every format. So it's just great. It's just great. I can't really go into depth further than that, because it is just a great album in my opinion. So definitely check it out if you do like some Skrillex singles. Definitely check this out, because this whole album is just singles like that, but it's all killer. It doesn't have the fluff that early Skrillex has. It just has all the consistency that you would ever want out of that sound. So for me, it's the best. Number 8 is Buki Kaisu by Maximum the Hormone. I also wanted some hardcore punk on here. I was thinking about Bad Brains, but that's barely scraped the surface. So, that did miss out on the list. I do love some Bad Brains as well, but for me, Maximum the Hormone is the tightest punk band out there. I can't name the songs because they're all in Japanese. The only one translated is What's Up People, which is, I believe, the opening to the Death Note or to the Death Note, to the Death Note soundtrack. And this is from season 2. This is not like the very, Japanese-esque opening of the first season. This is the second one. So the second one where there's all like crazy hardcore shit happening. Yeah, that's this band. That's this band. I think they're batshit insane. They're very, very crazy. But it's also just consistently fun to listen to. And there's not a weak song on there. Whenever you throw this album on, it's just tight front to back. I'm like, how the fuck do you do that? They do. So you have the opening song on there, What's Up People, the closing song, which I believe, they open with that, which is kind of crazy. They open with the ending song of season 2, and then way later they have the opening, which is track 10, I believe. So those two are great songs. Everything in between, arguably even better, because I've heard it less, so there's more time for me to grow on it. But also those songs are fucking great. And then what was the last song called again? Something with Lover, I believe. I do have it on my Spotify, so I can just check it out. I'm not gonna play it, of course, because don't want to get copyrighted, so you have to watch out for that. But it was I also forgot Fear Factory. That was really tight, but missed out on the list. Unfortunately. Could have made it though, but there was a lot of competition. Koino Mega Lover. I think that Spotify actually has the English title, so I can just read it from there. Title track Zetsubo Billy, which is the closer of ending 2 of Death Note. Then you have What's Up People, of course. That's a really that is a really fun one. Choo Choo Lovely Mini Mini Mura Mura. I can do it. Like there's this female singer and she says this whole title in this very comedic, cartoony way. Choo Choo Lovely. I can't do it. Choo Choo Lovely Mini 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 Mura Mura Prim Prim Boron Nuru. I can't. I'm just making a fool out of myself. Choo Choo, Lovely, Muni Muni, Mura Mura, Prin Prin, Boron, Nuru, Nururu, Rero, Rero. Can't speak Japanese for shit, but that's the whole title of that song. And she says it in a very fast way, like she's rapping it, like she's rapping that song. It's very crazy. But just saying that title, it stuck in my head. So I'm like, fuck, that's a great song. Zetsuba, like I said. What else? Shimmy, that's a good one. Louisiana Bob, just all bangers, man. Bikini Sports Punchin', this band is fucking insane. But yeah, there you go. This band is crazy, but I love them. I just never get tired of this album. I'm like, fuck, this is so great. So there you go. Listen to Buki Kaizu by Maximum the Hormone. Number 7. Of course, I have to mention Scaring the Hose by JPEG Mafia. And I was tempted to throw Veteran on there because it is his breakthrough album. So most people are like, yeah, that is the best one. I mean, you could make a debate that this is his best album. I don't agree with that, but you could argue it. But I do still really like it. But I did want to mention Scaring the Hose on there because I just think personally it is his best album. Because what is on there, like the whole first side is just bolded as fuck. And I would also say that the later songs are really good. And I mean, these titles are just jokes. These titles are just fun as fuck. Step Up Pig, Lean Beef Patty, it just opens up instantly. Garbage Bill Kids, Fentanyl Tester, Perfect, Shut Your Bitch Ass Up, Muddy Waters. That is a really fun one. Really fun and catchy. Orange Juice Jones, that's great. Kingdom Hearts Key, that's probably my favorite one. Even though I think that Kingdom Hearts is mid as fuck. But I mean, of course, the franchise is mid. This song is fucking amazing. Like that melody. I'm not sure what she's saying, but that melody is just gorgeous. God Loves You, Run the Jewels, Jack Harlow Combo Mule, Heaven on Earth, Heaven on Earth, Ho. Where you get your coke from? I mean, all these titles are fucking great. Like they're all quotable, they're all one-liners. Those were like 14 songs, and they go in and out in a bit over 30 minutes. I'm like, how the fuck do you do that? Which, JPEG and Danny Brown are just rapping their asses off. With some great features. With Redville on my favorite song, Kingdom Hearts Key. So just all great. This is a really good one. I'm like, fuck. There's not a dud on there. Is there a dud? Maybe. You could argue Orange Juice Jones or Run the Jewels because they're so short. But even those songs are catchy. I'm like, fuck. Like I can't skip anything. It's so tight. So just great. Scare your hoe tonight. Number 6 is Streets Cleaner by JPEG Mafia. That's not right. I'm not high, I swear. Street Cleaner by Godflash. There you go. And this album, I'm just kind of obsessed with it personally because it has this very like warm, fuzzy feel to it, or cold and industrial, kind of both in a way. If you really get into it, it just feels warm and comfortable to just sit in that atmosphere. For a newcomer, it's very cold and industrial, of course, because that's the general sound of industrial metal. And I was tempted to throw, the Fear Factory album on there, The Manufacturer, but it's very tight, but sometimes it's a bit too tight, if that makes sense, because I don't know, it's just like a constant hit of metal, and sometimes I'm like, fuck. Can I get a break from that? So you could argue this is the number one, but I personally don't really return to it. So yeah, it just missed out on the list, but there you go. There's an honorable mention there. But yeah, I do personally prefer this album because of the vibe, because of the setting, because of just the overall aesthetic that you get listening to this album. Because when you do listen to this, it sounds like you're standing in like a hill fire or something, or like a building is burning down, and you're just standing in the burn flakes, if that makes sense, in like the charcoal. It's just a very surreal sounding album. Like Rats is like the main song. I'm actually not huge into it. I mean, it is fine, but it's just like the opening song, so I'm kind of like whatever. Cries Bait Rising, very very fun song. It's a bit repetitive, but it adds to the consistent quality. Pulp, great. Head Dirt, really into that one. Devastator, Mighty Trust Crusher. I mean, the way he says it as well is just very, very surreal, very almost intimidating, you could say. Like he's dying or something. Life is Easy is essentially a doom metal song, so I'm like, whoa, that's just fucked up. I gave this 2.5. What the fuck is wrong with me? That's a 5-star for sure. I just re-rated it to 5 because it's a masterpiece. So Street Cleaner, you have that one as well. Locust Furnace? Yeah, I do know that one, but there are some songs missing on there. 2, 4, 6, 8. There are some really great songs on this one, and they're not on this version. That's kind of weird. I think the one that I have has bonus tracks, which I would argue are even better than the main CD. So I was not aware of that. Yeah, okay. So I actually listened to the bonus to the bonus CD, and I actually prefer the bonus tracks over the main album, which is I don't think I've ever said that. Like whoever prefers the bonus tracks because they're toss off, they're B sides, but they're somehow better, or I would argue in competition with the main album because I don't think I have Tiny Tears. I have to look at my Spotify because I don't recognize the title, but there are some really great ones on there. Yeah, I was definitely not prepared for this because I've listened to the bonus version so much. I thought it was the main album. Yeah, I mean it is on my Spotify as well, so it is legit. Wound also pretty good. The song that I just adore is Deadhead because it sounds like if you're essentially just your typical industrial sound, industrial metal, but it also sounds alternative. So it's industrial, it's alternative. It sounds like a hardcore band sometimes, like a bit of hardcore punk. It sounds progressive as well because there's just a lot of shit happening on there. So I'm like, yeah, this is progressive as fuck. And it's also shoegazy. I'm like, how the fuck are you blend 5 genres together? It sounds like they're mixing 5 different genres together. I'm like, how the fuck do you do that? That's insane. I'm like, how? How do you do that? Teach me. Yeah, so this is essentially a My Bloody Valentine song that got, they got like an adrenaline shot of just pure metal, of like actual metal plates, because of the industrial sound. So it's essentially My Bloody Valentine on steroids, like that song. It's fucking insane. I'm like, how the fuck can you do that? MBV doesn't even know. Like, how? How do you do that? That's insane. And I mean, the last song is also really good, Suction. Just a very, very catchy closer. It's a bit more in your face, but that adds to the consistent quality to it. So, just all around great, in my opinion. Number 5, I'm going to speed this up a bit because I'm almost out of breath. Number 5, To Pimp a Butterfly. I mean, it's the number one Rage Your Music album of all time for a reason. I do personally think that there are some songs on there that I'm like, maybe not that one, but you can't deny how tight that album is. Like the sounds of it, what he incorporates on it, the overall aesthetics of it. I mean, Wesley Sterry for Free, King Kunta, which is also a single, Institutionalized, These Walls, which is fucking amazing because of that Thundercat production. One of the greatest produced songs I've ever heard personally. You and I, For Sale, Mama, Hood Politics, How Much a Dollar Cost, Complexion, The Blacker the Berry, You Ain't Gotta Lie, and Mortal Man, where he's having that political speech. I'm like, fuck, all those songs are great. Like there are some songs where I'm like, I don't return to, I don't return a lot to Mama. I don't return a lot to Institutionalized. There are some songs on there where I'm like, you know, I'm not huge on it, but you know, the whole album, like the whole conceptual nature of To Pimp a Butterfly, is just it's so tight and consistent that how can you deny it? It has great teaming, great progression, great singles, great rapping, of course. Just everything that you want out of an album is on there. So I'm like, yeah, I can understand that Rage Music rates it the greatest album ever because there's not really a dud on it. I'm like, what is a dud? What is the closest thing that comes to a dud? Maybe Complexion? Maybe because it's a bit slower, but it's still a great, it's still a great mood. So I'm like, yeah, it's great for any occasion. Parties, moods, maybe not sleep, maybe. But yeah, party, relaxing, workouts, just anything. It works for anything, in my opinion. Number 4 is The Simulation by The Berserker. I will make this pretty brief as well, because this album is fucking insane. So you have to be into this sound called cyber grind or death grind. Because if you're not into those type of genres, which is essentially an electronic version of grindcore, if you're not into that type of sound, avoid this album. Do not listen to this album if you're like one of these raging music kids and your favorite artists are Kanye West, Kendrick Lamar, Tyler the Creator, Frank Ocean. If you're like a hip hop head essentially, avoid this album. Avoid this album like the plague because this album is fucking insane. Because this whole album just sounds like, there are some like speeches and like some political parties, I believe, that like speak for, the listener, or, you're listening to it. And you have these political parties going on and they're having speeches and shit. And that's usually how a song opens. And then it's just like, just the whole time. The whole thing is just, it's just a blast beat just for 30 minutes long. I'm like, that's insane. And, when I heard this the first time, I was like, what the fuck am I listening to? I had no idea what I was in for. This got recommended to me by voidxvi, and he considers it his favorite album as well in grindcore. And for me, I do think that it is the most fun grindcore album to listen to, because sometimes I do try to check out grindcore, like what were some bands on there, Carcass obviously, Napalm Death. I'm just from the top of my head. That was also one that he really liked. That I had moments of liking them as well. I'm not sure if I can say this on YouTube, but Anal the Truck. There you go. Didn't make that up. That's a real band. Yeah, those are all really consistent bands, but they sound a bit too meat and potatoes for me to really get into that. That's why I never really got into grindcore. But the Berserker is so fucking insane that you can't really get bored of it. But it's also like the tightest 30 minutes you could ever listen to. That comes with an asterisk, because that sound that I made, that sound, I'm not making that up. That's actually how it sounds. It's really just a batshit insane album. So if you're into like essentially deathcore, like grindcore deathcore, if you're into that type of sound, I could recommend this. But if you're not into those like extremer types of metal, avoid this album. Do not listen to this album. Do not listen to this album if you're not into those types of sounds, because if you're like just a regular like pop rock rap listener, if you just like listen to top 40 and you somehow came across this video and this is the album that you wanted to check out, because you're like, I haven't heard of this one. Let's check it out. Do not do that. I have to preface this because this album fucks you up. So maybe that gives people more incentive to check it out, but really be in the right headspace for this one. I can only really listen to this if I'm like on the treadmill or I'm like in a really consistent work rhythm. Then I can throw this on. If you throw this on like a party, it's essentially a buzzkill. Like people will just be freaked out by this. So definitely proceed with caution. But having said that, it is one of the tightest albums that I've heard. If you get into the tightness of it, like there's really no filler on there. It's all killer, no filler. A lot of it sounds the same as well. That has a lot to do with that. But there's not really a diss on there because everything sounds the same. It's all fucking crazy. So it's essentially just a storm that you throw yourself into, and you might survive it. Let's find out. Number 3, which is also similar to the Berserker, which is Jane Doe by Converge. Of course, this is the kind of the golden template of metalcore. And I was tempted to throw Colors on here, but Colors has these like really sprawling and long and just dense moments, that I love. I love Colors. But, for a new person to get into metalcore or to really want to hear what it's all about, and the shortest step to getting into that is Converge. The most commercialized or the most accessible metalcore is definitely Killswitch Engage and Bring Me the Horizon. I'm not sure whatever there are now, but they are a very catchy and accessible band, so you can definitely check that out because it sounds similar to Killswitch, which is essentially pop metal. I would argue. But yeah, I mean Jane Doe is I do love Killswitch and Bring Me the Horizon as well, but they have some like really fluffy pop moments where I'm like, I'm not really into that, or it sounds a bit too similar for me. But with Jane Doe, it's all like very fucking tight. It's just in your face. Um, I mean, the singer, I'm not sure if you can call him a singer. The front man screams his fucking brain out. It's insane. The opening song is just 1 minute of just the drummer, like beating his drum kit in and just going fucking ape shit on his drum kit. It's like, is it still alive? Is your instrument still okay? It's insane. That's how it opens. That's the first song. Fault and Fracture, insane. Distance and Meaning takes it a bit back, but still a heavy one. Hell to Pay is a very slow one, almost like doom metal, you could argue. And then it has these insane sludgy breakdowns, and I'm like, oh my god, this band is heavy. Yeah, I mean, if Slayer would listen to this, I think that Scary King would maybe grow hair out because he's like fucking scared shitless. He can't lose the hair. He doesn't have hair. Maybe this grows your hair back. Just reverse psychology. Just insane. Home wrecker, just pummeling like 4 minutes long of just pummeling fucking riffs in your face. Just it doesn't let up. Never. It doesn't let up. Broken Vow, Bitter and Then Some, which is just a chaotic shitstorm of sounds happening, which is a bit throwaway, but it's thematic for the album. Heaven in Her Arms, very beautiful. And then, that breakdown that comes. Dude, how does it go again? I mean, whenever that breakdown comes, I'm like, fuck, like that breakdown is fucking heaven. So that's accurate, advertising. That's good advertising. Accurate. Just a beautiful song. Phoenix and Flight, awesome breakdown. It like I've said this before about Converge, but you know, whenever that whole thing breaks down, it sounds like an airplane like crashing into a building. It's fucking insane. Almost into a twin building. No, I'm not going there. But funny enough, this album came out 1 week before that reference that I just made. Just laying that out there. Just saying. Phoenix of Flames, Bad Shit, Taw. Taw's probably my most played song on the album because it has these really creative bass licks and then these drums that just sound tight as fuck. And yeah, I mean, when the whole thing comes down and that dude screams over it, I believe Jacob Bannon. When that dude just screams over it, I'm like, yeah, this is GG. I'm basically repeating myself, so you get the point. I mean, the title track also masterpiece. So also just has an insane breakdown and pretty much everything that you want out of a Converge song. So I don't really have any complaint with this one. I'm just like, yeah, it is all killer, no filler. So there's not a dud on there. So Converge, Jane Doe, probably the most obvious album that you could call like masterpiece, front to back, no skips, all killer, no filler. So just stating the obvious, Jane Doe is great, but you already knew. Number 2, Painkiller by Judas Priest. And this is actually an album that I'm not a huge fan of, if that makes sense. Because you could argue that Jane Doe and Painkiller by Judas Priest are pretty similar in the sense of they're all very similar sounding songs that kind of blend into each other, which you could argue with most of these albums. But with Jane Doe, I like the variety of sounds because it has a bit of like some mathy elements. It has like traditional metalcore. It has like hardcore punk breakdowns. It has these sludgy elements. It's a bit progressive. So I'm like, yeah, it has all these great elements that like lean or they you know bounce off of each other. So I really like that approach in Converge. And with Judas Priest, you just get a pretty much a vanilla slap of heavy metal. And I'm definitely not calling Painkiller vanilla, but I'm just saying you get a pretty traditional sense of heavy metal. But this is the most consistent, you know, heavy metal album ever. Like I do personally prefer some other heavy metal albums or bands, but you can't deny that this album is all killer, no filler. Painkiller, Hell Patrol, All Guns Blazing, Ladder Rebel, Metal Meltdown, Nightcrawler, Between the Hammer and the Anvil, A Touch of Evil, Battle Hymn, which is, you know, an interlude, 2, One Shot at Glory, arguably the greatest closing song in metal. I'm like, fuck, that's a great song. Touch of Evil, fuck, that's a great song. Nightcrawler, fuck, that's a great song. Metal Meltdown, fuck, that's a great song. All Guns Blazing, my personal favorite. I'm like, whenever I hear the song, I'm like, fuck yeah. You know, I usually have that playing with a Akame ga Kill AMV, which is a pretty shitty anime, by the way. I don't even think that's subjective. That the anime just fucking blows. But with that song, that AMV is just fucking awesome. Like the visuals and that song is just that's metal perfection. El Patrol, and I mean the title track is just that's metal perfection. I think that was probably the first song that I heard in metal that got me into the genre. I'm like, wow, that's a really fucking good song. So I just kept listening to it over and over and over again. I think after that I listened to some Pantera and Slayer and Iron Maiden. I believe you know the obvious bands that you would listen to. But Painkiller really got me into metal. So I'm like, yeah, I have to mention this because I named the whole track listing and the whole thing is flawless. I'm personally not into like very in your face type of metal. like this, so I'm not a huge fan of it. But I can't deny, like there's not a millisecond where they're not doing awesome kick ass heavy metal. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. That's fucking flawless. Like there isn't a single there's not even a second of wasted space on this album. So I'm like, yeah, it is the tightest metal album ever, except for one. I mean, you can probably guess it. It's pretty obvious, but I will have some honorable mentions for you. You know, it's even more obvious than Painkiller. I would argue. Some people would say Painkiller is the most awesome, tightest album ever. It came very close, but because it is so similar, I had a hard time to call it the tightest because sometimes I get bored of how tight it is. If that makes sense. If that makes any sense. I just get kind of bored of how traditional this album sounds, but you can't deny that there's not a waste, there's not a second of filler on here. Like everything is kick ass. So definitely number two, at least number two for sure. Okay, my first honorable mention, which was close to making the list, is Pain Remains by Lorna Shore. By Lorna Shore. I actually really got into this band because I never really was able to like deathcore because it all just kind of sounds like the same, like static noise to me. So I could never really get into that. But I actually really liked Lorna Shore because the things that I like about this album specifically is that the songs are a bit longer, they're a bit more fleshed out. It doesn't immediately start with like a blast of deathcore because most bands do just stay in that static. Some like yeah, they stay in that static and they have like 10 breakdowns in one song, which is not, that's pretty worthless. If you have a breakdown every 10 seconds, you don't build up to anything. It's like when you go on a hill and every 10 seconds you're like going like that, like you're going on like very low or just minuscule ramps and you're just making little jumps. I'm like, yeah, that's not satisfying. The satisfying shit is whenever you have a song like Heaven in Arms with Converge, and you have like a whole consistent hill, like a steep hill, and then at the end, and then you fucking jump off. I'm like, fuck, that is a breakdown when you build up to it. And Pain Remains comes closer to that Converge example because they do build up. They do have these really great atmospheric tensions in their music. And then afterwards, you get a great breakdown and really great thematic styles in their music, like a lot of great technical death metal. And it also sometimes sounds like a classical piece, like a symphonic metal band is like backing them up, like some Nightwish is playing in the back for Lorna Shore. That's actually how this sounds. Not with those operatic vocals. Of course, they're growls because deathcore, but it does sound a bit similar to Emperor sometimes. Emperor or Demi Borgir. My personal favorite, Aquilus. So essentially, symphonic black metal, but in a deathcore style. I'm like, yeah, that's fucking great. Love that. So yeah, I mean, didn't make it because the album sounds a bit too samey for me to really consistently listen to it. But I've really got into it, especially the title track, the closing trilogy, like Dancing Like Flames, After All I've Done, and Sea of Fire are just, those are amazing songs. Especially the part one, Dancing Like Flames. That's probably the greatest deathcore song I've ever heard. That's the best one yet because this came out 3 years ago, so it's not even that old, but it's great. Love it. Also one that's really consistent is Since I Left You by The Avalanches. I mean, I've already recommended on vinyl, so I was like, I'm not gonna hammer on it too much because it seems pretty obvious to me. But yeah, I mean, this is just 1 hour, just a 1 hour slap of just really great, consistent samples that are fun and endearing to me. Didn't make the list because there are some interludes on it where I'm like, you could have skipped this, or I believe with Avalanche Rock, that's ending of, I believe, Two Hearts in 4-time signature or something. That's one. You have that ending of Avalanche Rock, and I'm like, can that be a whole song? And then they just made it a interlude. I'm like, you could have made that a great beat, because you know all their songs are essentially just a loop. So I'm like, yeah, make a whole Avalanche Rock song, but they just made it an interlude. So I'm like, yeah, it's a bit disappointing. There are some like other interludes where I'm not really into it. So because of those reasons, it just skipped out. It just missed out on the top 10, but still pretty great regardless, in my opinion. Third honorable mention, which was actually the reason why I wanted to make this video, is One by Tesseract. You gotta also argue Meshuggah, but if you've seen my bands dislike, not huge on Meshuggah. But Tesseract has the diversion. They have, it's not just constantly growling. They have growling elements. But they also have a really great singer, I believe, in my opinion at least. I'm not sure if he's still the current singer. Julian Perrier. He was only the singer up until 2006, so that doesn't sound right. Because One came out in 2011. I typed here 10, so let's change that because I'm a perfectionist. And I get very autistic when things are wrong. Let's see. Daniel Tompkins, I believe, because he was the vocalist, from 2009 up until 2011. Then he skipped out on Alter State, and then he was the singer for 2014 and onwards. So the only one he didn't do was Alter State, and according to Raging Music, that's the best one. So I'm like, oh, do people not do they not like the guy? I mean, I personally really love his vocal style. I mean, the whole Concealing Fate shit's great, especially part 1, the acceptance part. Just epic in my opinion. Nascent, great. Opening song was really good. Sunrise, like I said, great. April, really catchy. And Eden is a masterpiece. Like, I've listened to that today. I just kind of kept listening to it. That's a fucking amazing song. Yeah, it didn't make it on the list because the Concealing Fate shit, it sounds a bit too similar to me. It all kind of blends into each other for me after a while. I think that part 1 is very, what's the word? Fuck, what was the word again? It's very, recognizable, but it's distinctive. It's a very distinctive part. And then, with Deception and The Impossible, you get, where they slap in the bass, or they're like really tight on the strings. Whatever you do with the gent shit, that not huge into gens, but I actually do really love this album. I really got into it, so I can listen to gent for a long time because eventually it all sounds kind of the same to me. Hence why this is only an honorable mention. But there are some just absolute masterpieces on there. Opening song, The Sense, Acceptance, The Concealing Fate, Part 1. I really like Sunrise as well, and Eden. Whenever they get to the bridge, and he's like, all there's left is memories. I kind of fucked up the melody there, but I just have that stuck in my head, man. All that's left is memories. My voice is fucking toast. I'm not gonna attempt that part again, but All that's left is memories. That's the closest you're getting from me. Instantly contradicting myself, but there you go. I love that. That's one of my new favorite songs. That Eden shit. Just amazing. Just a great closer. Definitely the best Gen song I've ever heard, in my personal opinion. All that's left is memories. That's the last time I swear. I just have that fucking song stuck in my head right now. Number 4 of the honorable mentions is Bad Brains. I mean, I've already had Buki Kaiju on there, on the actual list. So I'm like, yeah, Bad Brains, like I said at the beginning, very great, but couldn't include them because it was too similar to Maximum, and I do prefer Maximum. This is also really good. I also really like this one, but yeah, barely missed out on the list. But there you go. I also really like the more pop reggae parts that they have. Really cool album. And then the last one, I wanted to have something more industrial. I mean, Godflash, but I also wanted to shout out The Morning Star by Def Grips, because this was really one of the first rap albums where I'm like, yeah, every song is a single, like with Kendrick Lamar as well, but Kendrick was a bit more traditional, so I was like, yeah, probably should include that because it's more accessible to more people to check out, to call it tight for more people. But yeah, I mean, Death Grips is definitely a more obscure, not obscure necessarily, but a more left pick or less accessible, you could argue. So still pretty great. I mean, I think that everything is like a hit on here, or like almost close to like bolded and shit. Get God, The Fever, Lost Boys, Blackjack, Hustle Bones. I've seen footage. Double Helix, System Blower, The Cage, Punk Weight. And the only song that I'm not huge into is Fuck That. I do like the kind of tribal jungle parts that it has, but it's just a song that goes like fuck that. MC Ride just goes like fuck that, just for 2 minutes long, and I'm like, I think that a homeless person could have made that. Sounds pretty similar to that, but you could call Death Grips that. Homeless people could have made it, except for Zach Hill's part. Like that dude is an insane drummer. But yeah, there you go. That's the Death Grip shout out for the day. And Bitch Please, definitely one of my favorites Death Grip songs, I would say. And Hacker, of course, which is classic. But yeah, number 1. I'm gonna make it under an hour. I mean, this is pretty fast, pretty tight, pretty obvious. Rust in Peace by Megadeth. I mean, Holy Wars, Hangar 18. Okay. Someone screamed agreed. Someone agreed with me. Gotta love this neighborhood. But yeah, like I said, Holy Wars, Hangar 18, Take No Prisoners, 5 Magics, Poison Was Secure, really fun kind of guitar solo to learn. Lucretia, great ending. Tornado of Souls, greatest metal solo ever. Marty Friedman, enough said. Dawn Patrol, great David Ellefson bass. And Rest in Peace Polaris, perfect closer. There is no, you could argue Dawn Patrol, but there is no filler. Even Dawn Patrol is sketchy. That's a fun kind of relaxing bass interlude. There is no skip. There is no skip. And it's progressive. It's a bit proggy, it's technical, it's thrash metal, so it's just fun as fuck. So it slightly edges out over Painkiller, and I mean, I keep returning to it. It never gets boring, so that's the video. Let's keep it under an hour. Yeah, I mean, that's how obvious it is. I needed like 10 seconds to explain that. Like, subscribe to to the channel. Let me know what you would like to see in a future video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.